Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 143, The Sovereign Shift, from Martyr Helper to Soul-Led Helper. All right, so welcome back. I'm so happy to be here with you. And my name is Lisa Espinosa. I'm a spiritual career coach for helpers, for guides, for healers, visionaries, change makers, whatever label you use. But the common theme is that you have that heart-led heart, right? You have that helper heart that knows that you're here to bring about divine solutions, to anchor in higher consciousness, to be a midwife of change. And so today I'm talking about the sovereign shift. And this is partly kind of in preparation for the masterclass, the free masterclass I'm having next week. So I'll put the link to sign up for that if you're interested. And so what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to talk about what is the sovereign shift? Why is it so essential? Why is it what is needed the most in the world? And then I'm going to share a little practice that you can do to when you kind of catch yourself out of that sovereign place. And some of these things I've talked about, well, all of these things I've talked about before, but I wanted to really anchor some of these teachings in a different format here in this podcast episode so that you can really think about. I love that phrasing, sovereign shift, right? So that when you catch yourself, you're like, oh, wait, I'm going to shift back into sovereignty. And so I have my notes here. So if you see me looking, just because I wanted to kind of make sure I cover some things and not forget them. Hey, Roxana, welcome. And so what is the sovereign shift? The sovereign shift is moving from the martyr helper identity, sovereign helper self. And what is the martyr helper identity? The way I define that is coming from a lot of thought errors, a lot of programming around what it means to be a good helper, someone who helps, someone who's in service. There's a lot of programming that is actually very limiting and can actually be very toxic, but it is rampant in the world. And I can't tell you how many of my clients right now I'm coaching through this process of becoming sovereign in their service and all the judgment that comes at them, right, for that. And what's interesting is that it could be, of course, it could be very vicious judgment, but a lot of times it's very subtle judgment. And actually, sometimes it's the most painful when it's judgment coming from people you love or respect or value. And so we're going to talk about that today. So again, I want you to imagine being in your, even if right now you're like, well, I don't understand what the sovereign helper truth is. Still, you know, the word sovereignty means freedom, right? And sovereignty, I want you to imagine you're on your throne, like this beautiful queen or king on your throne. And this is your throne of sovereignty, your divine throne of truth. This isn't about having power over people or being better than other people. This is coming back, like you can imagine in your heart. There's this throne where the master within you dwells, where your soul, your higher self, your divine self, whatever words you want to use, dwells. And we are all being called to be of service, to help humanity, to create solutions, all of that from that place. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. But as I said earlier, there's in this 3D world, false matrix, world of polarity, whatever you want to call it, there is really the shadow self of the sovereign helper. And it's what I've labeled it the martyr helper identity. And this martyr helper identity has some commonalities, and we're going to go over them right now. And before that, I want to say, when I talk about the world of polarity, some people use the false matrix, whatever label you want to use, what does that mean? It means that we know, right? If you're watching this, if you're drawn to my work, you've heard me say, and many spiritual teachers and coaches say this, we are divine beings. We are souls having a human experience, meaning we're way more than this physical body. Okay? We are divine. We are holograms of God, of the divine mind. What does that mean, a hologram? A hologram means that all of the qualities that are in God or the divine, if the word God doesn't resonate, whatever word, the divine spirit, are also in you. And in everyone, literally in every human. And we also have an ego structure. And the ego is like the opposite. The ego is the part of us, right, that compares, that experiences lack and limitation, that judges, right? Our ego structure literally is programmed to judge others, judge ourselves, compare ourselves to others, all of that. And the challenge when we're in this human life, the challenge we sign up for is to awaken, to remember that we are actually a soul having this human experience, and to choose to be led by our soul rather than our ego structure. And I'm going to have to get up and close my window because they just started doing some work. I don't know if you can hear it, but I can hear it and it's going to distract me. So I don't know if I've ever done this on the podcast, but I'll be right back. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So again, we're on this sacred mission to be led by our soul, not by our ego structure. Okay. And when you're a helper, I'm just using that label because it just encompasses everything. Maybe you're a therapist or a coach or a teacher, or maybe you're in a whole different profession, but you know, if I say helper, and you're a helper, you know what that means. You're like, oh my gosh, yes. Like ever since I was a little girl, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I fantasized about healing people and helping people and traveling around the world and helping children. And that was just always part of my goals. Now for you, it might be different. Maybe you dreamt about creating beautiful art that inspired people. Anyway, when you're a helper, it is even more important, more essential to be led from your soul. And your soul is sovereign. What does that mean? Your soul is free from outside influences. The only influence is the divine, is spirit. So when you look out in the world and you see the wars and the polarity and all the awful things that happen in the world, right? Then as a helper who has a divine assignment, because I really believe if you're a helper, you have a divine assignment. Doesn't mean you're better than other people. It just means you have a divine assignment. You signed up to come into this world and be someone who brings in higher consciousness, however you do it. And so as a helper, it is your responsibility, our responsibility, our mission to come here and do our work, our sacred work, whatever it is. Even if you're retired or in between jobs, you have sacred work, right? Whether it's how you connect with people, how you talk to people, how you listen to people, how you are a free, independent thinker in the world, however it is. But we have a sacred mission to do it from a place of sovereignty, because that is the only way that we're going to help humanity become sovereign. So this is really really essential. Sometimes people hear me talking and they misunderstand and they somehow feel that, okay, I'm kind of promoting this way of being a helper that's selfish, or that's, not as powerful or sacred or holy as being a helper who sacrifices and is a martyr to the cause, right? But that's not what I'm teaching. That's not the point. It's not just because it's not about, helping you not burn out and feel better. Yes, those are actually natural side effects of this. But it's ultimately because the type of help that the world needs is help that's coming from that sovereign place, not from the ego structure, because any help that comes from the ego structure creates more ego structured things, right? More judgment, more division. It ultimately is not true transformation. So first and foremost, with this podcast episode, I just want you to understand that this isn't about, okay, how do I help more people and feel better? Yes, that's important. And I absolutely think that's essential, but it's ultimately the inspiration. I really feel what actually helps us to commit to this path is to understand, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually going to have more impact, help more people, actually usher in the golden age, the new reality, a sovereign planet, only if I can help from that sovereign place. Okay? And so when I talk about having the sovereign shift from martyr helper identity to sovereign helper, that's what I'm talking about. And it begins by understanding, so what are the things that fall under the martyr helper identity? And I'm just going to name them here. I've had other podcast episodes about this. The masterclass next week, I'll go a little deeper into this, but you'll recognize it. So what is it? Self-sacrifice. And what I mean by that is anytime you feel you have to sacrifice your well-being to do your service, to do your work, that's that. Now I want to be clear, this is where the ego structure can argue. I am not saying that as a helper, you never stretch past your comfort zone. In fact, part of being a helper, part of answering the call, requires us to constantly step outside of our comfort zone. That's part of it. And I've talked about that a lot in different episodes. And so it's not about, oh, I always want to be comfortable and comfy and only help if it feels good. No, that's not what this is. But it's really understanding that it's, again, that metaphor that's so overused, but it's just a really good one of, when you're on the plane and they say, the flight attendants give you that whole little talk and they're like, okay, if the oxygen ever drops, and the oxygen mask falls, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before helping any other people. And they know that you have to do that because if you don't, you start helping other people and then you collapse and pass out and then you can't help anyone else. And so that's what this is about. But truly, truly understanding that. So again, martyr helper identity. Let's say on this side we have self-sacrifice, overextending, doing things out of obligation, minimizing your accomplishments, dimming your light to not make others uncomfortable, right? Neglecting, rejecting, pushing away your expertise. Embracing this energy of like, oh, I have to suffer like all the other people are suffering. That's part of being a noble and being a good helper. I can go on and on and on, but you get the idea, right, of where that's coming from. It also, in the martyr helper identity, there's also fear of people judging us as selfish, judging us as greedy. There's there can be a lot of people pleasing. So as I say that, maybe there's a bunch of them that you're like, no, I don't do that, I don't do that, I don't do that. But just notice, because we all have some version of this. I am not immune to it. I am still absolutely healing this. So notice, okay, when I said those, like, okay, which ones were the ones that you were like, ooh, that one. Maybe for you, you've really worked on codependency and you really worked on, releasing people-pleasing tendencies, codependency tendencies. Maybe for you, it's more about letting your voice be heard, taking up space, being in the spotlight. Maybe that's where you're like, right? So do you notice that? And so that's the martyr helper identity. And then what we're stepping into is actually the true helper, which is a sovereign helper truth, right? You're stepping into your throne, right? The throne of sovereignty, of wisdom, of truth, of unconditional love. And so I'm going to read some of these. And I had sent this in an email several months ago in the summer. But these are, so I went back and I was going to read, I do have them here written just because I don't want to forget. So these are a few of the sovereign helper truths that are really essential. And as I read them, just notice which ones you feel very comfortable with. Like, oh yeah, feel, and which ones feel like, ooh, that feels like a stretch, or that feels like something I'm really working through right now. So number one, I'm here to serve the ones my soul is meant for. This is a real important one. What does this mean? And I don't think I mentioned this when I talked about the martyr helper identity. One common thought error that we have, that we can have as helpers, is that we're meant to help everyone. If anybody needs us, we have to stop everything and help. And, spirituality is full of divine paradoxes. And one is that, of course, in a way, we're helping the whole world. When you help one person, you're helping everyone. It's also equally true that there are people that are your divine assignment, right? There's people who probably have gone through similar challenges as you, and you're a little further ahead of them, or maybe a lot further ahead of them. And this isn't coming from narcissism or feeling better than. It's just knowing like, oh, I've gone through this before, so I can help you now. And one of the things that I often coach my clients in is this really important thing, because often there will come a time, there's cycles in your helper career where you might outgrow the group of people you're working with, you're helping. And there's so much guilt and shame that could come up. Like, oh my gosh, but they need me so much, that would be selfish. No, I must stay. But actually, we need to understand, no, that we have a divine mission, we have a divine assignment. And as a sovereign helper, you follow that mission. You keep being pulled to your people, and that will evolve. So for example, many of you know, I used to be a middle school teacher, right? Like 14-year-olds in Chicago, back when I lived in Chicago, in the Chicago public schools. And so for almost 10 years. And for that amount of time, my divine mission was to be a teacher and help these teenagers. They were my people. They were absolutely who I was meant to help. And it was one of the most sacred, amazing learning periods of my life. I'm still everything that I learned during that decade still serves me today. And then there came a point, about 2008 or so, where I started to feel restless. I started to feel like, why am I, like a little bit like I was spinning my wheels. I kept thinking like, why am I not happier? Until I received the clear guidance from my soul, right? Your time here is done. It's time to move on to something else. And I share this in my book, Answering Your Inner Calling, that I felt two things simultaneously. I felt such relief, like, oh, okay, that's why I've been feeling so restless. And then I felt total panic and terror, like, what? I can't leave this. And there was many reasons for that, but one of them was absolutely guilt. I was feeling like, how could I leave this job? It's so sacred, and these kids need me, and all of this stuff. Now, 15 years later, however long it's been, it all makes sense, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that was such a sacred time. And I had to leave so that I could do the work I'm doing now. And so that first sovereign helper truth, I'm here to serve the ones my soul is meant to. That's what that means. Now we have to have the courage to both say yes and say no. Okay. Number 2, my well-being is sacred service. That means you have a divine responsibility to tend to yourself, to do the things you need to do to ensure that you keep coming back into alignment. And that will look differently for everyone. Whether that means going to yoga, whether that means shifting your diet, whether that means making sure you have alone time, whether that means taking walks, whatever it means, taking spiritual classes, it'll mean different things for everyone. But again, when you think about it beyond self-care, like, oh, I have to make sure I take care of myself. Like, no, understanding it's my divine responsibility. It's sacred service. My well-being is sacred service. Because why? Because as a helper who has a divine assignment, when you are not well, when you're out of alignment, you're not the only one that's suffering. All the people you're here to help and serve are also being deprived. And I'm not saying that from a place of pressure. It's just for you to understand it is my responsibility to ensure that I'm well taken care of, whatever that means. And so that's number two. Number three, I trust others' souls to guide them. This is really important because often the martyr helper identity can have us go into rescue and saving people. I have to go rescue them, I have to go save them. But that is a faulty premise. As a sovereign helper, you know, everyone has a soul. Everyone is a holograph of God, of the divine. Everyone has spiritual guides that are around them. Everyone has free will also, right? So everyone has the free will to decide they don't want to connect with their soul, or they don't want to connect with their divine qualities, all of that. And so it's really important, even when we connect with our people, even when we're helping others, for us to absolutely hold that vision of the people we're here to help as powerful, as infinite beings, as having the capacity to completely transform their lives and heal from the most horrendous things. Like, we must hold that, because sometimes people, I know for me, you know, I can look back 15, 20 years, 25 years when I first saw my first therapist back in the year 2000. I mean, it's a miracle I survived till 2000. There were so many things that I had experienced. And I mean, I didn't, you know, it was just a really challenging time in my life, and I didn't have any of these teachings. I didn't meditate, I didn't go to yoga, I didn't know about any of this stuff. I just had this like inner drive to be healed. And mentor. Oh gosh, my screen went dark. Hope you can all still see me. I don't know what happened. So anyway, I was talking about this mentor. And when she started working with me, I couldn't see my strength and power. I had so much, I was holding so much heaviness, but she did, even though I was in a really intense situation. Thank you, Katie. And doubted and wondered, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out of this? She could see my power, my light, my resilience. And I could see that she could see it. Even though I was confused about how she could see it, I could see that. So she didn't see me as like, oh, poor her. You know, she's got all these kids and she's going through a divorce and I feel sorry for her. I have to rescue and save her. That's not how she approached it. Yes, she absolutely helped me. And there were many times that I really felt she saved me. But it wasn't a saved me from her self-sacrifices. She saw my power. She saw my light. So as a helper, it is our responsibility to do that for our people and for humanity. Okay. Number 4, there's 5 of these. I lead with joy, celebration, and ease. As a helper, it is our responsibility to cultivate joy, especially when there's so much pain in the world. But not coming, and I think this is often hard for helpers. You know, we feel the pain of the world. We're so attuned to the suffering of others. So there could be times where we feel like, oh gosh, it's wrong for me to feel joy when there's so many people that are suffering, or any of that. But the truth is, joy is a very high frequency. And what the world needs, you know, like that song, what the world needs now is love, sweet love, and it's also joy. And so experiencing joy, allowing yourself to feel joy, allowing yourself to celebrate your growth, your successes, sharing your growth and successes, not from a place of showing off, but just like literally being an example of what's possible. That anchors in the light. That helps humanity. Yes, there might be people who judge you. Yes, there might be people who, whatever, misunderstand. And that's okay. That's, you know, as helpers, we will be judged. That's going to happen. But there's going to be, I guarantee you, way more people that look at you as an example and are like, how is she doing that? I want to remember how to do that. I want to connect with joy again. I want to celebrate myself. I want to put myself out there. Like, how, you know, like that's one of the most powerful ways we help is through example. So remember in the martyr helper identity, there's the dimming our light, not wanting to make people uncomfortable, so we dim our light. But literally, Jesus said, don't hide your light under a bushel or whatever he said, a basket or whatever he said. Right? It's like, he was like, stand on the hill and shine your light really bright. So that's what we're here to do. And number 5 is connected to this one. I shine so my people can find me. Again, we are being guided to shine, to be in the spotlight, to let our voices be heard in your own unique way. So I really want to be clear about that. It doesn't necessarily mean in front of a camera or saying speeches in front of people. It could absolutely mean that. But it also could look very different for you. It might be just the way that you have conversations with people. It might be the way that you listen so deeply. It might be the way that you're able to be with people in pain and not run away from it, not try to fix it for them either, but just really bear witness to it. Right? And so, but we are being guided to like shine, be authentic so that your people can find you. Okay, so those are the sovereign helper truths. So now that you know martyr helper, sovereign helper, you understand why it's essential for you to help from sovereignty, because that's what will cultivate sovereignty in the world. That's what's the only thing that can free humanity. So then the soul practice that I'm going to share right now with you is this. Okay, and again, next week when I do the masterclass, I'll go more deeply into this and I'll talk about the throne, kind of the energetics of being in the throne a little more so that you can really anchor that. But this is like preparation. All right, so so there's 4 steps. First step is you're going to notice when you're in the martyr identity mode. Martyr mode, let's call it. That's the first step. And that might be the step right now that's the number 1 step for you. Like literally maybe right now, what you're going to do as you go through the world, you're just going to notice like, oh, I'm in that martyr helper identity again. Oh my gosh, and it might be something as simple as like, you might have carved some time out for yourself that you really, really need. And then something happens and you're about to give it away. Like, oh, I'll just do that next week. This person really needs me. And you notice like, oh my gosh, I'm in that place. I'm in that martyr mode. You're going to notice it. And then you're going to notice where you feel it in your body. So like, where do you feel it? Maybe you feel it as a pull in your heart. Maybe you feel it in your gut. Maybe you feel it in your shoulders like pressure. But just notice. Like, where do you feel it? Okay, first step is really the most important step. Notice when you're in the martyr helper identity. Let's just call it martyr mode for short. Then, and I should back up and say you're doing all this with compassion and curiosity. Beating yourself up is part of the martyr helper identity. So you're doing this with compassion, with curiosity, because you understand that this is all humans struggle with this. And we're asking ourselves to be superhuman, to be a soul, to choose our soul instead. So you want to be very compassionate. So again, number 1, notice when you're in martyr mode. Number 2, then scan your body and notice where you feel it in your body. And then number 3, you're going to call on your soul's sovereign frequency. And what does that mean? So you might just bring your hands to your heart and be like, all right, beautiful soul, I just call on your frequency of sovereignty. I call on my soul's sovereign frequency, or just my soul's sovereignty. You don't even have to put your hands on your heart. I like doing that. That helps get me out of my head, but you might be out in public and that would look weird or something, and you might not want to do that. But just call on your soul. You could even just say, soul, help me. I'm in the martyr mode right now. Help me. And then you're going to declare, this is step 4, I'm here to be a sovereign helper. Even if in the moment you can't change the behavior. Maybe if in the moment you're still like, I don't know how to change my action steps. I feel like I have to do this. That's okay, but just taking these steps will start to shift. And so what I added is, I'm here to be a sovereign helper. As I embody sovereignty, I bring sovereignty to those I serve. Like as I'm sovereign, I bring them sovereignty. So those are the steps. It does, as you see, it doesn't require you to actually change your behavior yet, right? So, but just if you notice, so step one, notice when you're in martyr mode. Step two, notice where you feel that in your body. This is very crucial information for you. Step three, you're going to call on your soul. Like you're going to say, soul, help me shift into sovereignty. And then step four, you're just going to declare, I'm here to be a sovereign helper. And you could do it again internally. You don't have to say it out loud unless you can. As I step into sovereignty, I bring sovereignty to those I'm here to serve. Those are the 4 steps. They seem very simple, and they are simple, but they're not necessarily easy. If you get through step 1, the others will be easy. I really think the hardest one is to notice when we're in that martyr mode. To even have enough presence to notice it, and then to not beat yourself about it. In fact, I will talk about that a little more in next week's class, masterclass. It is crucial that you do this with the most compassion for yourself. And curiosity, like be curious about it, like almost like a scientist, like walking around the world and kind of like, and pat yourself on the back. You might be like, ooh, I'm really in sovereignty when I do this and when I do that. This is great. I worked so hard to be in sovereignty when I help in this way. And then also notice like, ooh, I'm still in martyr mode when I dim my light a lot. Or I don't want people to feel jealous of me. Or I don't want people to think I'm showing off. Or I kind of hold back because I don't want people to judge me. Again, just don't beat yourself up. Don't force yourself to change. Just notice, oh, I know what's happening. I'm just in that martyr mode. Where do I feel that in my body? Oh, I feel it in my chest. Okay, now I'm going to call my soul to help me. Soul, help me to shift. And then I'm going to declare, I'm here to be a sovereign helper. I know when I step into my throne of sovereignty, I bring sovereignty to my people, to the world, to those I'm here to serve. All right? So this was today's podcast episode. Thank you so much, those of you who are here live with me, and all of you who are watching the replay. I will be here next Wednesday for episode 144. I'm excited because I love double digits and I love 44. So episode 144 is going to be awesome. And then that next Thursday is the masterclass, free masterclass, The Sovereign Shift. Reclaim your energy, reclaim your throne. It's Thursday, October 16th. From 12 to 1:30 Central US time. You do get the replay for 7 days. If you can attend live, that would be awesome. I would love to connect with you live, but again, you will get the replay, but you have to register. So I'll put it in the description. I'll put in the comment section, the link. If you ever have a question, please feel free to message me on YouTube or send me an email. And I will see you next week. Oh, you know what? I actually had the animal cards here. So from the Spirit Animal Oracle, let me just pick one animal card. We'll see what animal guide is helping you do this shift into sovereignty. So animals embody sovereignty. You know that? That's why nature is so healing, because there's no codependency amongst trees. There's interdependency, right? They support each other. Like we are meant to be interdependent, but there's no codependency. That's toxic. All right. Oops, it's weird. I did it backwards. So let me do that again. I didn't see a card. I just saw the back. Okay. Oh, perfect. Look. Dove spirit, be peace. So I just had a session with a client and doves came up a lot. So call on the dove of peace. And whenever I see a dove, I just think of Christ's light, Christ's consciousness, which is beyond any religion, which is like, so call on the energy of the dove to help you to take that sovereignty shift. Right? All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much. And I will see you soon. Bye, Roxanne. Thank you, Roxana. And Katie. Bye-bye.